Are you ever curious how some of your favorite apps came to be? If you're a designer who wants to start dipping your toes into the world of app design, this video is a perfect appetizer. We're going to be covering an overview of the whole app design process in just 5 minutes. So let's dive right in. Step 1, foundational research. Let's say you have an idea or a client comes to you with a general brief of what they want to have built. The amount and type of research that you'll do will vary significantly depending on the project. But in general, you want to get to know your niche really well as the competitors that exist within your niche. Step 2, ideation. Once you're familiar with the landscape in which your project will exist, you can move on to ideation. Using a technique like whiteboarding, empathy mapping, or storyboarding, map out all of the capabilities and features that your product should have. Not all of these will make it into the MVP or the first version of the app. After you've ideated and come up with a long list, then you can prioritize based on budget, resources, and that kind of thing to come up with a list of requirements for your MVP. Step 3, wireframe. The first step in that process is wireframing, or creating skeletal screens that map out each flow of your app. Think of a flow as a path that a user would take to complete a task. Step 4, user test. Once you've sketched out all of your flows in a wireframe format, it might be a good idea to start prototyping those and do some initial user testing on those flows. Once you've sketched out all of your main flows as wireframes, it might be a good idea to string those together and prototype them into a user test that you can use to start gathering some insights. Give test participants tasks to complete and see if there are any common stumbling blocks. Or you could just show them static screens and ask them questions that test their understanding of things like icons, terms, buttons, etc. This will give you a great idea of what things need to be changed before moving forward. Step 5, high fidelity designs. Now it's time to start designing high fidelity screens in Figma or a similar program. This is what you'll hand over to a developer or engineer in order to build the app, so accuracy and consistency is important. Put together a style guide first that outlines things like text styles, colors, spacing, and stuff like that. Then start designing. It's always a good idea to get feedback along the way from other designers or developers or stakeholders. Step 6, handoff. Once these final designs are approved by stakeholders, you can hand them off to developers. Usually, a designer will walk through these designs as they hand over the file to their developers and also be available for questions and any compromises that need to be made throughout the development process. Speaking of which, a lot of compromises could happen during this phase, especially if you haven't worked closely with the developer throughout the design process. Step 7, listen and iterate. Once the MVP is built, release it to the world and pay close attention to your first group of users. You should frequently reach out to them for feedback to learn about things they like and don't like and want to see in the future. By this point, you can see you've come full circle back to the beginning to research in order to improve your product even more. Think about apps that you're really familiar with. They're always coming out with new and hopefully better versions. The app design process is very iterative. Since it's more of a cycle than a linear path, it truly never ends. I hope this gave you a helpful little sneak peek into the world of app design in just 5 minutes. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in a future video. Bye!